Do it anyway is a mindset trick that you can use when you start to feel excuses rolling up. It works a lot like the 5-second rule. You have said to yourself, okay, I'm going to talk to my boss today about that thing that I've been avoiding talking to them about. And then the moment comes where you've got to have that conversation, or the moment comes where it's time to pack up your bag and leave your desk and go to the gym. And what always happens? You don't feel like it. I bet there are plenty of you watching that have made a commitment that, I'm not going to have a drink tonight. And then guess what happens when you get home? You don't feel like not drinking. You feel like having a drink. Here's what do it anyway has done for me. The idea that I just do it anyway has pushed me to realize and to recognize that there are a lot of moments where there are things in my life that I really want to do, I need to do, but when the moment comes, I don't feel like it. And so I pull out this idea of, you know what? I'm just going to do it anyway. It's raining outside. I said I would go for a short run. I don't feel like it. I'm going to do it anyway. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm tired. It's cold. I laid out my yoga clothes, but now I don't feel like it. What do? I do it anyway. When you start to say to yourself, I'm going to do it anyway, what happens is something really cool. You acknowledge that there are feelings that you have that are trying to swoop in and hijack you. And you basically say, guess what? I'm going to do it anyway.
Need motivation?
You better watch a Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and I make these videos because in my first business, I was making $300 a month. I quit on my business partner, and the thing that saved me was studying the stories of super successful entrepreneurs. So I hope that this story today helps give you the motivation you need, because I still need it too myself. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Mel Robbins, and my take on her top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, keep dreaming.
Whatever it is that you're dealing with in your life right now, it can put blinders on you because you have to deal with your aging parent. You have to deal with the illness that's in front of you. But it is so critical that you still dream. Why? Because dreams transport you from the day to day. Dreams give you a beacon to look up, because dreams will remind you that the situation that you're facing right now is temporary. Dreams will remind you that even if the situation isn't temporary, let's say that you've got some horrendous degenerative disease, and so it's going to get worse, not better. Dreams still give you a purpose to live a bigger life despite what you're dealing with. Now, you may not have the bandwidth to pursue your dreams because of how sick your parents are. That's okay. It won't always be like this. But it is critical that as a form of self-love, as a form of self-care, that you still build the skill of holding space for your dreams and writing those dreams down every day and thinking about those dreams and reading about those dreams, because they will help you move through the chapter of the life that you're in more powerfully, more grounded, and more fulfilled.
Rule number 3, manage your fears.
We tend to think about fear as something that's up here, that the fears are all in our heads. Well, the truth is, your body feels fear and remembers fear and senses fear way before your mind does. And the reason why I want to talk to you about this is because, as many of you know, we have a brand new audiobook that just launched with Audible Originals. So Audible Originals is an imprint inside of Audible. We are a major partner of Audible's, and we just released a brand new audiobook. It's their #1 new release on Audible, called Take Control of Your Life: How to Silence Fear and Win the Mental Game. And there were some unbelievable things that I learned and that my team learned and that we're now sharing with you in doing that project. So Take Control of Your Life isn't your typical audiobook. It's not me just reading a book that I wrote. What Take Control of Your Life is Take Control of Your Life is a live coaching and takeaway program that's 10 hours long. And so there are 6 people that you meet when you listen to Take Control of Your Life. And they have fears, just like you have fears that are holding them back, just like you have fears that hold you back, fears that impact your life in a negative way. And we go session by session for 6 sessions. You listen to the coaching session, you hear about somebody else's fear, you hear me coaching this person live, and then I spend like 45 minutes unpacking the entire coaching session for you. And on top of it, you guys, there's a 55-page workbook that our team designed that goes along as a companion to this audiobook. And you don't even need to buy the audiobook to get the workbook or to get the takeaways, because I'm giving you the takeaways for free here on our live stream. So if you want the audiobook, just go to melrobbins.com/take control and you can download the audiobook. And what I'm going to talk to you about today is I'm going to talk to you about the session that we did with Heather in Take Control of Your Life. And it's a really incredible session because Heather is held back at work because what happens is when she has to have a really difficult conversation, when there's something that she wants to talk to her boss about, when there's a conflict with one of her colleagues. You ever have a conflict with your colleagues at work? Ever feel like you work in a toxic work environment? Well, this is something that you need to understand. Sometimes the toxicity in your work environment is about the other people. And sometimes the toxicity in your work environment or in your life environment or your friend environment is about stored memories in your body from your childhood. I know it's crazy stuff because the saying, feel the fear and do it anyway, it's true because your body feels situations that set you, that put you in a state of being afraid before your mind catches up and starts thinking about what you're afraid of. And so one of the key takeaways from Take Control, and one of the things that I want to teach you today, is that if you start to tune into your body and you start to notice the signals that your body is sending to you in your day-to-day life, signals like butterflies in your stomach, signals like feeling a rush of energy up to your neck, signals like your armpits sweating, signals like your hands getting sweaty, signals that your body is stepping and noticing a situation that reminds it of your past. Learning how to read those signals that, oh my God, here goes my body. My body is starting to recognize that this is a situation that puts me on edge. Recognizing those signals first and slowing the body response down before your brain starts to go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. That is a critical skill in taking control of your life. I want to tell you a little bit about the science. So there's this famous neuroscientist called Antonio Damasio, and he did a really interesting study where he discovered that our body senses fear before our mind even realizes it. And when fear or danger, speaking to your boss, calling a prospect, going to the gym when you're not proud of the way that you look, and it's not fear like terror. It's more that low-grade agitation in your body. I felt it yesterday because I went to a boot camp class yesterday, and I'm not in good shape, and I don't do boot camp classes. And Kendall and I are staying at this hotel where, holy cow, everybody seems like there's some sort of professional weightlifter or Instagram model. And so it was really intimidating, and I could feel that agitation in my body. That's the kind of fear I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the paralysis fear your life is threatened and you really are in a life or death situation. I'm talking about the low-grade agitation that is there when you're about to do something that makes you feel a little uncomfortable. So when fear or danger is sensed in the body, your body begins a stress response before your mind even catches up. And if you want to take control of your life, you got to take control of that physical state. And it starts with catching these moments, everyone, when you start to feel it. Okay. And so for some of you, it may be a pit in the stomach. For some of you, it may be tightening in the chest. For Heather, who was one of the people I coached in Take Control, it was this massive wave of heat that went into her chest, tightness, a rash, and then she could start to feel that she was crying. You need to understand how do you react to situations that make you nervous.
Rule number 4, build mental fitness.
And you got to view this moment like a test. And what is the test testing? It's testing who you are. That's part of the race right now, how you show up for it, right? It's not a matter of how you finish it. It's how you show up for it and what you do while you're running it, the kind of racer that you are. And look, I get it. This is a very difficult race that we're all running because we don't know where the finish line is. And it is very, very hard to stay motivated, which is the advice that you're seeking, Peter, when you don't even know when this damn thing is ending. This is the part of the race. I've run 4 marathons. Don't everybody gasp. I mean, it was nothing to brag about. I mean, I finished them, which is something to brag about, but it's not like I won the damn thing. But this is the point in time when you're running a race, when you said you're losing ground. What that means is you're starting to slow down. You feel your legs getting heavier. You feel your breath getting a little bit more shallow. You start to wonder, oh, why did I sign up for this thing in the first place? You start to wonder if you are going to make it. And so here's what I'm going to tell you, Peter. When you are coaching your clients and your clients start to lose ground, when you are coaching your clients and your clients don't feel motivated and they feel tired and they feel like giving up and they don't want to do another set of burpees, what do you tell them? You tell them to dig deeper. You tell them to find the strength within them to keep going. You see, what you need right now is you need to start building the motivation of your mind. Because motivation doesn't exist in your body. It comes from up here. And what I hear is that you now have an opportunity. This is what the test is, Peter, to train harder because you are capable of so much more. This is handing you a moment where you get to become an even stronger and more capable version of yourself. Now, does that mean that you're going to be motivated all day long, every single day that you wake up? No. But it means you've got to have the mental fitness right now to continue to get up, to show up, and to dig deeper when it comes to your mindset, when it comes to your attitude, when it comes to your just knowing that you are going to get through this. And so this moment, everybody, it's telling you who you are. It's telling you whether or not you're the kind of person that shows up to a challenge and you're pissed off, or you're sad, or you feel depressed, or you feel despair, or you feel all of these things that start to take you down the drain of negativity. And what I'm here to tell you is that you are built for this moment. You may not feel like it. You may feel sad. Those are all normal feelings. You may feel negative. It's very easy to do. You may start to feel a little bit of despair. That's going to come and go. But this is where the test of this race that we're currently running lies. When those feelings rise up and you start losing ground and you start feeling like you're not going to make it to the finish line and you start feeling unmotivated, can you dig deeper and remind yourself that you were built for this moment? Because one of the things that I know is that when the shit is hitting the fan, I guarantee you there are people in your life that are looking to you. There are people in your life, whether it's clients or colleagues or family members, that are looking to you right now. You know what that tells me? That you're the kind of person that people rely on. And now is the moment in time in the race that we're all running where you got to teach yourself to rely on yourself. How do you do that? How do you build the muscle of the mind? It's very simple. Very simple. I didn't say easy. I said simple. The steps are very simple. To win this race and to build strength in this muscle right up here, you got to focus on the shit you can control. And that is what you do with your body and what you do with your mind. And the one thing that has made a huge difference in me, because you can see that I am showing up as a very different Mel Robbins than I've been the last couple of weeks. The last couple of weeks, I have been losing the race. I've been going up and down. I've been doing my best to stay positive, but I am now back in the race. I have now found my ground and found my footing. And it comes in focusing on what you can control. And you know what you can control? There's only one thing. It's what are you doing to make this day the best day that you can do. What are you doing to master this day today? Tomorrow, forget about next week, forget about what's happening this summer. This is a race that will be won by those of you who are the ability to focus on today and making today amazing.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, go big.
I want to teach you how to train yourself to dream big. It's actually a skill. And dreaming big is something that we used to do as kids, right? It was so easy as kids to sit in class because you were bored with, whatever it was that your teacher was doing, and you started to daydream. And as adults, we tend to lose that ability. So the Dream Book is going to be your companion to this program. And here's my philosophy about training yourself to dream big again as an adult. In the Dream Book, one of the things that you're going to be doing as a daily practice is you're going to do something that I do in my book. And that is every time I crack this open, because I keep my notes in here, is I write down the 5 things that I dream about. So I've written down, okay, I'm super embarrassed that I've written this down. So I'm going to tell you what my 5 are. And you can see, you probably can't see how red I'm turning because I have so much makeup on because I was in television today. And in television, they put a lot of makeup on you. In digital, I normally look like shit. But this is why we all need to learn to dream big and to dream authentically, because when you talk about it, you immediately shrink because we're trained not to have these aspirations. So the first thing that I wrote down is I want to be the #1 talk show in the United States. You know what's so fascinating is I used to dream of just actually being where I am. And now that I've achieved that, I have a dream that's even bigger. And what does it mean and why is this dream important to me? And this is part of what you're going to learn in the workbook, but I'll tell you why this dream is important to me. Because if we are #1, it means that the work that we're doing that I care so deeply about, which is helping people heal their minds and heal their relationships and to live a more positive, happy, mentally well life, that we're reaching more people. That's what that means. And that's why I want it. I wrote down #1 New York Times bestseller. I have for years said I don't give a shit about it, but I actually do, I guess. And I think it's because it would be really nice to have the powers that be actually acknowledge the impact that we're making. Do I need it to keep going forward? No, of course not. And I will keep going forward. I want to make the Time 100 list for mental health and for the work that we're doing. And the reason why is because as much as I like being an entrepreneur that does things in a very innovative way, that kind of public recognition brings with it resources and partners that would allow you to make an even bigger impact. And so when I think about that kind of recognition, it challenges me to dream so much bigger than I'm dreaming right now about the impact that I want to make in mental health. The 4th one, this is not my dream right now, but I wrote this down 3 days ago, and that is to be the happiest I've ever been living in Vermont. The reason why I wrote that down at the time is because my son is going to go to high school in Vermont, and we are grappling with a move. And I had a mental breakdown when we started looking at houses there, thinking I couldn't live here. One of the interesting things about dreaming is your dreams will change. I love the daily practice of writing in your dream book the 5 things you're dreaming about, because you'll notice that there are things that show up consistently for you, and that's a sign that it's important to pay attention to it. It's important to walk toward it. And by writing, I dream that I'd be the happiest I'd ever be in Vermont, I was doing the work of trying to shift my attitude about how I was feeling about a move when I'm not that excited about it right now. The fifth one is I want to build a summer house. I grew up on Lake Michigan. I've spent the last 30 years not on the water. I dream to be successful enough that someday, in the next decade, I will have the money to buy a fantastic piece of property on the ocean, and I will build an awesome house that is a gathering place for our family. And hopefully, that will not include grandchildren in the next decade.
Rule number 6, quiet your anxiety.
I'm going to be talking to you about the connection between worrying and anxiety, and how it is critical if you want to quiet your anxiety, if you want to stop worrying, if you want to get control over what you're thinking about. It's going to begin with a habit that you have that somebody else trained you, that you've gotten really good at this habit. And you know what the habit is? It's the habit of worrying. We all do it. We're all guilty of it. We're all guilty of, sorry, let me just move that a little bit. We're all guilty of worrying about things that are beyond our control, worrying about things that doesn't matter, worrying about things that we shouldn't care about. Sorry, I've got the streaming lights anymore. Hold on, let me just ask Mandy a question. Worrying about all kinds of things that you shouldn't worry about. And it becomes a habit. It becomes a default way of thinking. And so in order to kick off Anxiety Week, I want to explain the connection between worrying and why that impacts anxiety. And now, since we're talking about anxiety, I have to be very clear about something, okay? I am not a therapist. I am an individual who struggled personally with anxiety for more than 2 decades. I took Zoloft, which was a lifesaver, and I strongly believe in trying medication when a professional believes that you are so in a hole mentally that medication will give you the ability to start to claw your way out of that hole. I have learned so much about anxiety because of my own struggles. And 5 years ago, I trained myself to be a deliberate thinker, just like I'm training you to be a deliberate thinker in this program. And through everything that I am about to teach you and all of the strategies that you're about to learn, I learned all of these by researching anxiety. And I road tested them on myself while I was still in therapy. And I then started going off of my medication. And as my mindset reset and as my thinking patterns became more positive and stronger and healthier, I was able to completely cure myself of anxiety. And I say that with the utmost of relief and confidence. And I have also gone on to use these exact same techniques that I'm going to teach you to help my children deal with their anxieties. I've written extensively about anxiety in the 5-Second Rule book, which is right behind me. We've sold almost 1 million copies of that book. It is the #1 self-published audiobook in the history of Audible. I'm so proud of it. And I speak at length about anxiety and using the 5-Second Rule to cure yourself of anxiety, okay? But I need to make it very clear that these training sessions are in no way a substitute for getting professional help. If you have the kind of clinical anxiety or you suffer from an anxiety disorder, it is paramount that you seek professional help from a therapist one-on-one, that you try remarkable therapies. I'm going to say it wrong, but it's EDRM or ERDM, which is the rapid eye movement therapy. Incredibly helpful. And so don't be a hero. Don't go off your meds cold. Don't quit therapy because you think that this live training program is the answer. This live training program is a step. And this live training program for the next week in particular, while we talk about anxiety, you're going to be introduced to tools that are grounded in research and tools that have worked for millions of people and tools that you can take back to your therapist or take back to whatever counseling you get to help you become a deliberate thinker, which will help you quiet your anxiety, get control of it, and then ultimately cure it with the help of a professional if you have an anxiety disorder. So that said, please, please, please listen to everything that I'm about to tell you and try it, okay? Please try it because this stuff works if you practice it. And again, quieting anxiety, it's not an event. It's not a one and done. This is a process that you are going to repeat over and over and over again because the connection between anxiety and your mindset begins with your habit of worrying. We have a question from Twitter. Is worrying the same as overthinking? If you're overthinking about positive stuff and keeping yourself in an excited state, no, it's not. If you're overthinking and the overthinking is you spinning scenarios in your mind that are negative, yes. Overthinking is another word when it's negative for worrying on overdrive. It means that you worry in loops. And you keep repeating the worry over and over and over as if you were washing the same load of laundry over and over and over again. And so we're starting with the habit of worrying about things that don't matter, worrying about things that you can't control, worrying about things that haven't happened yet, worrying about things that are far off in the future. When you start to train yourself to think about things that are not in your control, or think about things that are statistically likely never to happen, that is when you can get into trouble. And that's why we're going to start with worrying. You see, worrying is when you allow your mind to default on autopilot and think about things that don't serve you. Think about things that are outside of your control.
Rule number 7, innovate yourself.
Here's another massive insight. So I always think about business as levels, right? And I also realize that as the media landscape or the particular vertical or industry that you're building a business in is changing, that is a constant, and it's something that you can't control, right? You just cannot control the things that are happening in the world around us, but you can always control what you're thinking and what you're doing in response to it. So all of my work centers inside this gap between what's happening in your life and in your work and what your reaction is to it, and how you can't control the things that are going on around you, but you can always control what your reaction is. And that gap there, that's about 5 seconds long. And you start to understand that you can change how you think, you can change your habits, you can change how you lead, you can pivot and change even the philosophy of your company. And you can do it through the decisions that you're making and managing your reactions. You will become unstoppable. So 3.5 years ago, I got into the speaking business because of the popularity of that TEDx talk that I gave. And that first year I did, I think it was like 27 speeches. The next year I did 87. Last year I did 121. I was the most booked female speaker in the world. This year I've capped it at 80. And here's why. I realized, just like you may be realizing in your business, whatever your business is, that there are aspects of your business that you love and that energize you. And there are aspects of your business that are depleting as hell, and that are old and that are tired, and that if you continue in that lane, you're going to end up 10 years from now in a place that you don't want to be. It's so important for you to pay attention to what's energizing you about the landscape around you and about your own business, because that's the secret to seeing around corners. And so the corner that I was seeing around is that as an entrepreneur, even though it's wildly lucrative to do what I do just on the speaking platform, I mean, anybody can do the math on 121 speeches, right? And the amount of money that I get paid to show up and deliver a 1-hour talk, and realize there's a lot of money. Here's the problem. It's a terrible business because you can't scale it other than raising your price or raising the number of times you do it. And guess what else? You have to show up. And I can't sell it. So I found myself in a situation where I had built a multi-million-dollar business, highly profitable, and it was depleting the hell out of me, and I can't really scale it, and I can't sell it. Terrible position to be in an entrepreneur. So I made a decision that what was it, Bo, that actually energizes me about my business? And I answered it with the first question. It's hearing from people. I would rather answer comments on Instagram all day long than stand in a stadium with 5,000 people in it. I get more from the one-to-one connection. That's what fuels me. And so I had this light bulb moment, paying attention, being clear, that wait a minute, I don't want to build the biggest speaking platform, and I don't want to build a coaching business. I want to build a content company. I want to go back to my roots and build a media company. And so with that insight, I now have to change, right? Because the kind of businesswoman that runs a multi-million dollar speaking business is where it's just you and your speaking management firm and your travel folks and your logistics people and maybe your social media manager. That's who's on the team. The kind of leader that runs that kind of team is very different than the kind of leader that is going to grow $100 million media company, that's going to syndicate content every single day, that is going to own what she's doing, that's going to build Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn as my personal ABC, CNBC, Fox. And this is what I want you to understand about the story. And that is this. In order to get to the next level in your business, you got to decide right now, what habits do you have as a leader that you have to change now? Because you will not see around the corner. You will not engineer that next quantum leap unless you personally change. And so one of the reasons why I've gone from being the most successful female, book speaker on the speaking circuit to launching the #1 book on all of the self-publishing platform for Amazon and one of the most read books in the world and selling like gangbusters still, is because I am constantly innovating myself. I know that I am the single biggest problem in my company. And if I don't constantly pivot and evolve how I lead and what I'm focused on, I'm going to be the blockade. And so, stop looking at what everybody else is doing, stop micromanaging the team, and ask yourself, 2 years from now, when you think about where you want your company to be, what habit do you have to change right now?
Rule number 8, push things forward.
The thing about procrastination is it's triggered by stress. So your cleaning is being triggered by stress. And there's only one way to deal with this pattern. You have to interrupt it. So when you catch yourself cleaning next time, that's a moment of power because you're now present. You're like, oh my God, here I am cleaning again. Use the 5-second rule, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, to switch gears in your brain and get control in the moment. And then I want you to just do one thing on your side hustle. That's it. Drop the cleaning stuff, walk over, send one email on your side hustle, write one paragraph of content, do one thing. And here's why. Here's why I want you to focus on doing one thing or working for 5 minutes. That's it. Set a timer for 5 minutes. I'm going to work on content for 5 minutes. We know based on the research that you're 80% of the time you're going to keep going past the 5 minutes, because the issue isn't that you don't know how to create content. The issue is that when you start to feel stressed out, you go to cleaning. It's a pattern that you've trained yourself to do. The only way to interrupt that pattern is to break it and insert a new one, okay? And let me just say something about procrastination and perfectionism, okay? Because how many of you struggle with being a perfectionist? Yep, I'm sure. The thing about those of you who are perfectionists is that it's not about being perfect. Perfectionism is really your attempt to be in control. And we're seeing a massive rise in the number of people that struggle with perfectionism. And I think it has to do with the fact that our culture is now so focused on performing from an early childhood, from how you do in school to being on the right club team, and then it's the travel team, and then it's the this team, and then it's recruiting for college, and the way that we parent our kids, and helicoptering and swooping down, and the pressure of college, and the pressure to achieve, and the concern that you're going to make a mistake. I mean, this has become a self-imposed epidemic. And so if you are somebody who struggles with perfectionism, you can't turn in something at work until it's perfect. You can't finish the paper until it's perfect. You can't even start with redecorating your room until you know the perfect color. That this is really about control. You are uncomfortable just being in the flow. You're uncomfortable with the unknown. And the most important thing here is to realize that this is a pattern, and you absolutely have to break free of the need to do everything right and to get into the mode of just being willing to try. Get into the mode of understanding, hey, if I turn in something at work that's not like perfect, I'll get feedback and then I'll make it right. Like in the work and in the willingness to just keep pushing things down the line, keep showing up, keep raising your hand even though you're not sure you're going to say it right, keep contributing, keep asking for feedback. You 1,000% will slowly lose the grip of being a perfectionist. Because the only way to break that pattern is to realize, oh my God, I'm trying to keep control, and that's why I'm holding on to this paper. That's why I'm torturing myself. That's why I'm doing everything. The magic is in the willingness to push things forward, to try, to get in the flow, to basically say, I'm just gonna do my best. That's it. I'm not gonna do it right. I'm going to just try. I'm gonna do my best. And when I get feedback on how I can do it better, that's how I'm gonna learn. I am a lifelong learner. I don't ever think I'm gonna do anything perfect. This is not something I struggle with anymore because I have broken this pattern in my mind and realized that all of the opportunity and magic comes from you being willing to put yourself out there when you're not perfect, being willing to do things and start things when you haven't figured it out, and understanding that when you get into the flow and into the conversation and into the live stream, that you can get into problem solving mode and you can figure it out.
Rule number 9, set a good morning routine.
Your mindset and having a powerful mindset and being deliberate about what you're going to think about and what you're not going to think about, it begins the moment you wake up. And believe it or not, how you wake up, not when, but how you wake up and the first few things that you do in the morning will dictate your mood for the rest of the day, which based on science is going to impact your productivity and it's going to impact how you feel about your life. And it will also impact your mindset for the rest of the day. And that's why now that we've done in days 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, we've done foundational training. You've learned a tremendous amount about how your brain works, about your default network, about how to be a deliberate thinker. You've spotted your limiting beliefs. You've learned how to think this, not that. You've started the skill and the practice of the skill. Remember, it's a process, not an event, to be a positive thinker. You've started practicing, catching your limiting beliefs and swapping from that default way of viewing the world and thinking about yourself and choosing deliberate thoughts. Now let's talk about physical habits that you can adopt that are very simple, that will be life-changing, because they will impact your ability to be in control of what you're thinking and to be deliberate. And that begins with how you wake up. So let me talk about the morning. You can think about your morning routine and whether or not you even have one in the exact same way that we think about the brain. You're either defaulting to something that you've always done that may no longer serve you, or you're getting deliberate and choosing to do something that's more positive and powerful because you deserve it. And that starts with your morning routine. So if you're the kind of person where the alarm goes off and you hit the snooze, and then the alarm goes off again and you hit the snooze, and eventually you roll out of bed and you step into your day and you maybe drink a big dark cup of coffee and you skip breakfast and you skip exercise and you're tired, if that's how you start your day, your mindset is going to be impacted by that. If your alarm goes off and you immediately reach for your phone and you start scrolling through Instagram while you're in bed and looking at Facebook, and you are putting all kinds of stuff in your brain that triggers FOMO, that triggers insecurity, that triggers anxiety, that is going to impact your mindset for the rest of the day. And so starting tonight, I want you to take control and be more deliberate about your habits in the morning. And what we're going to do this week is we are going to build, based on science, the most powerful morning routine that you could possibly have. Sorry, I'm just moving this around so that the Instagram channel is brighter. The most powerful morning routine that you could possibly have based on science. It's super simple. It will help you become a more deliberate and positive thinker. And I'm going to walk you through step by step. And you're going to be doing this with more than 230,000 people around the world. So what is the assignment tonight? The assignment tonight is very simple, and you're going to hate it. You're totally able to do this, and most of you are not going to. You're going to let your limiting beliefs and your default mode of thinking stop you from making this simple change. And the thing that I want you to do tonight, this is your assignment. This smartphone right here, I don't want it anywhere near your bedroom. Your assignment is when you go to bed tonight, you are to plug your smartphone in outside of your bedroom. If you live in a studio apartment, put it on the other side of the room. I don't want this phone anywhere near where you sleep. And there's a simple reason why. You're addicted to it. And if it's next to you while you're sleeping, as soon as you wake up, without even thinking, the default mode of your brain will mindlessly reach for this, and you will lie in bed and you will look at your phone. And when you do that, you are putting in garbage into your brain before you even get out of bed. If you wake up anxious, if you wake up overwhelmed, if you wake up feeling like you're losing some imaginary race, if you wake up and you feel dread, if you wake up and feel negative or exhausted, I'm telling you, this is the reason why. And if you want to have a positive mindset this year, and you deserve to, then you also have to get very deliberate about your habits and about your morning routine in particular. Because how you wake up matters. How you wake up determines your mood. How you wake up determines on your phone. Hold on, IG is pausing a lot. Hold on a second. Let's see here. Yikes. All right, hold on a second, IG. I'm getting a lot of, let's get on Wi-Fi. Rendezvous. Let's see if that works. Looks like I'm on. Let's go back to Instagram. Okay, let's see if that works. Is that better, Mandy? Thank you for your patience, by the way. Normally, our streams are not as spotty, but when we started this program, I knew that I was going to be traveling 24 out of the 35 days that we're broadcasting live. And tech can be a challenge. And so for those of you that have been hanging in there on Instagram, if it's spotty, jump over to Facebook Live, jump over to YouTube, jump over to Twitter. We're streaming on all 4 platforms at once. And we will also email you a link to this video, which is one of the reasons why, if you haven't yet, sign up for melrobbins.com/mindset reset, because we curate all this information for you and we tee it up for you every day. So thank you for your patience as I am broadcasting from my parents' place. My mother's 70th birthday is tomorrow. And for those of you that are just tuning in because the stream has been dicey, we're talking about the powerful connection between your mindset and your morning routine. In fact, I would say it's not even powerful, it's critical. You cannot have a positive, in-control mindset if you don't have control of your mornings.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is stop doubting yourself.
The barrier is everybody gives a shit what other people are thinking.
Yeah.
And so they're on camera or they're on a microphone trying to be smart or concerned about whether or not they look good in the shot, concerned about how they sound, whether or not they stuttered, if their neck is turning red, like whatever it may be. And they're so up here that they're not actually being true to just saying what's right here.
Absolutely.
Whether you're speaking from the heart, speaking from the gut, like that is the skill to develop, is the ability to be more like an 11-year-old that gets on camera and can just be themselves instead of being a 49-year-old person censoring themselves.
Got it.
And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about the truth, when I talk about authenticity, that people really want to feel that connection. And the only way that they're going to feel that connection is if you do the work to remove the own veneer and the own barriers that you put in between you and other people. And the number one thing is everybody gives too much of a about what everybody else thinks.
Absolutely.
And you know who they think they're worried the most about? Their friends.
Yeah.
If I put this thing up, not for my friends, but for the people that I'm trying to build a rapport with online, my friends are going to judge me. Your friends. Seriously. If you're out to make a difference, if you're out to share something that is important to you, if your friends don't like it or don't support you, they're really not your friends.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, no, definitely makes total sense.
And it's a really hard lesson. It's a very hard lesson because everybody's always judging everybody else. That's why you can't worry about it.
Do you have like recommendations for how people just get started, like from moving from that, like to basically move from their mindset of I care too much to I don't care as much? Like, are there steps that you recommend people take?
The only step that really works is action.
Okay.
Because if you're stopping to think about what people are thinking or whether or not you're worried about what people are thinking, you've already fallen into the trap.
Okay.
The second that you push yourself to get started through the action itself, you are proving to yourself that even though you care what everybody thinks, you're gonna do it anyway.
Okay.
And so that's why I talk about the 5-second rule. The 5-second rule is how you interrupt the excuses, the patterns, the concerns, and the fears that you have, whether it's perfectionism, whether it's disappointing your parents, whether it's being judged by your friends, whether it's looking stupid when you post something, whether it's screwing up and saying something that a bunch of trolls come after you for, right? All those things that everybody's concerned about, that can stop you forever.
Absolutely.
If you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you break the part of the brain where all of those trappings are, and you awaken your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that you're using when you're creating content, when you're speaking with courage, when you're learning something new. And so that's why this simple brain trick that I invented is exploding around the world, because every last one of us is exactly the same. Exactly the same. You and I, we want the same thing. We want to actually live a life where we get to express ourselves at the highest level. We're all want the same thing, and we're all stopping ourselves the same way, by thinking too much, by buying into the lies that self-doubt tells you. And so I'm here to tell you, you can cut that off at the knees. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you can make a 5-second decision. The second you feel that doubt, the second you feel that concern, the second you feel that fear, and you can literally feel it and actually move anyway. The reason why those positive, I love myself, I'm happy with who I am, I accept myself, the reason why those mantras don't work in the beginning is because your brain rejects it. You've spent a lifetime trashing your body, trashing yourself, telling yourself you're stupid, telling yourself that you're not good enough, telling yourself that nothing's ever going to work out for you. There is no way that you're going to be able to stand in front of a mirror, everybody, look yourself in the eye and say, today's the day that I'm going to forget all that stuff and I'm just going to accept myself. And the reason why it's not going to work is because all day long, you then continue to beat yourself up. And so what does work? Well, I'm going to read from chapter 7 of my New York Times bestselling book, The High Five Habit. The place where we left off, for those of you, is page 91, where we were talking about training your mind to change the way that it views the world. Intentionally training your mind to help you. And this is an important thing to learn how to do, because if your mind is going to accept new ways of thinking and new beliefs about you, you must also train your mind to start to see the world differently. And so you can do the exercises that I'm teaching you in conjunction with what I'm about to teach you about mantras. So mistake number one, when it comes to you trying to become a more positive person and when you are trying to change the way that you talk to yourself, is you pick a mantra that you do not at your core believe, okay? You pick something that is the antithesis of how you actually believe it yourself. And so the mistake number one that you're making when it comes to mantras is that you're picking a mantra that is so far away from where you are that your mind immediately rejects it. So that's mistake number one. Mistake number two is that you pick a mantra that is simply just you repeating a statement that is the exact opposite of how you speak to yourself and how you treat yourself all day long. And so, let me just talk about this on a common sense standpoint. Let's say that you really want to become healthier, okay? How many of you want to become healthier, right? And you know all the things you need to do. How many of you want to become healthier and you know the specific actions you need to take in order to become healthier, right? Of course you know what to do. You know that you could eat better food. You know that you could get more sleep. You know that you could move your body a little bit more. You know that you could drink more water. You know that you could lay off the booze and the fatty, starchy foods. All those little actions would add up to a much healthier you. Are you with me? Yes, of course you're with me. Okay, so knowing what to do is the easy part. Knowing kind of what you want, that's the easy part. The problem with sticking to those changes is that your own negative self-talk trashes you all day long. And the negative self-talk, I'm so fat. Oh, there I go again. I said I wouldn't have dessert, but I did. Oh, I said I wouldn't drink tonight, and I just did. Oh, I said I was going to go gluten-free, and I didn't. Oh, I'm sad, so I'm going to do this. Oh, I don't feel like going for a walk. All of that negative thinking and talking, it makes you feel less motivated and less worthy of the change that you want. And so if you wake up every day and you have a dream and a goal of becoming healthier, and you know that today you're going to move your body, and today you're going to drink more water, and today you're going to cut out the gluten, and today you're going to do whatever, you're going to donate the clothes that don't fit so you stop trashing yourself. All things that make you feel better, right? If you stand in front of the mirror and you say, I love you and I accept you exactly how you are. I love you and you deserve to be, and I love myself and I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to be the best me I can be. And then the next thing you do is you go into the kitchen and you glug, 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 pour a ton of cream into your coffee. Your mind is immediately going to go, why did you just do that? Oh my God, here I go. I'm 1 minute into this. And your own negative self-talk just overrode what you said in the mirror. That mantra that I love myself and I accept myself. By the time you got into the kitchen, you have already trashed yourself. The pouring the cream in the coffee is an example that you don't love yourself. You're not sticking to your word. And now your motivation goes, boo, to change, right? This is why most mantras are complete bullshit. You're picking something you don't believe. So what will work? Because the truth is, research says that having a positive attitude, having an optimistic attitude, being kind to yourself is the secret to motivation and inspiration. When you treat yourself with respect, when you cheer yourself forward, when you forgive yourself when you screw up, you are going to feel more worthy and you're going to feel more encouraged and you're going to feel more likely to pick yourself back up, dump the coffee with the cream out, make the coffee with the plant-based thing that you said you would drink, shrug your shoulders, laugh that you just instinctively poured the cream in, and then there you go. Take a sip of your coffee. So we know that positive talk helps. We know that kindness helps when it comes to motivation. The problem is you're picking a mantra that is so pie in the sky, and it's making you feel far away from what you want. And so what will work? I'll tell you what works, and then I'm going to read to you from the High Five Habit. Mantras only work, number one, if you believe them. I'm going to say that again. Mantras only work if you believe them. So if you're somebody that has struggled with self-acceptance for a very long time, it will not work for you to stand in front of the mirror when you feel broken and you're at the beginning of your journey of taking control of your life. It will not work for you to stand in front of the mirror and to say, I love and accept myself. Because as you stand in front of the mirror and say that, your brain is going to be like, no, you don't. Did you see how you treated yourself yesterday? You do not love and accept yourself. I know I'm a ventriloquist now. I'm your brain. And then that truth, that your actions don't align with what you're saying, plummets your motivation and your desire to change. So what you have to do is pick a mantra that you actually believe. I used to be the kind of person that had zero boundaries. I mean, nada, nothing, zilch, nothing. In fact, there were periods of my life where it was worse than zero because I was so attached in romantic relationships that I literally would become like a human amoeba in my romantic relationships. I mean, I was like, literally, if it's possible to have negative boundaries, meaning you like somehow go in a totally different direction, that was me. And so if somebody as insecure and as emotionally attached in relationships and as people-pleasing as me can figure out how to identify, communicate, and uphold boundaries in my life, you can learn how to do this too, okay? And so that's what we're gonna unpack in this video. So I think a big question, because a lot of people talk about boundaries, they know they need boundaries, but they don't have good boundaries. Why is that? Well, the reason why we don't have good boundaries is because none of us were trained how to set them. I mean, I want you to think about your childhood for a minute. Your childhood with your caregivers, your parents, your grandparents, whoever, it is naturally an imbalance, right? Like when you come into this world, you are born into a particular family. You're born into a particular culture, religion, economic situation, a place in the world, a race, like a religion. And based on where you were born and to whom you were born into in terms of the family structure, there were all kinds of rules that you had to follow. And if you did not follow those rules, there were consequences. And so can you imagine if you, as like an 8-year-old, started to try to express boundaries, literally, like mom cooks a pot roast dinner, and you cross your arms, you're like, mom, this is a boundary cross for me. I have decided that I am no longer eating meat. Your mom would probably go, guess what, youngster? You not eating dinner is a boundary crossing for me. You're not getting up from this table until you finish what's on your plate. And so saying boundaries when you're little doesn't really work for the adults in your life. And that's why you never learned how to do it. And by the way, your parents were probably never taught how to have boundaries either. And so I want to start at the very beginning, okay? Where do you even begin? Where do you even begin when it comes to learning how to set healthy boundaries, okay? So first things first, where you're going to begin is you're going to start to think about boundaries in a completely new way, okay? The number one mistake that we all make, I made it, you're making it right now, is when you think about boundaries, you are thinking about other people first, okay? You're thinking about boundaries and believing that your boundaries are rules in a relationship that define respect and that somehow your boundaries are going to control or change someone else's behavior. That is the exact opposite of how you should be thinking about boundaries, okay? I didn't realize this. This is why I was lousy at setting boundaries, because I thought that my boundaries control what other people do. No. So how do I want you to think about boundaries, okay? Boundaries are rules that you create about your own behavior. And I'm going to take this a little bit further now. What I'm actually talking about is I'm going to help you identify situations, people, any kind of experience you might find yourself in where your boundary defines what you're going to do in reaction to something that's going on around you, okay? Because I think what I'm seeing a lot of online are two things. It's this sort of quick Instagram advice where it's like, you've crossed a boundary, you're a toxic person, you're no longer in my life. When the truth is, the behavior that we really need to be policing is our own. The opportunity for growth and the way that boundaries can support you is in looking at what you need to change when it comes to certain people, certain situations, or certain choices and habits that you have, okay? And we're going to unpack this, don't worry. But I really want to kind of land here, because if you start to turn the focus back on yourself, you're going to have a much easier time with applying the 5 rules around boundaries that I'm about to teach you. Okay, so rule number 1, always focus on yourself, what you will and what you won't allow, okay? Always focus on yourself, what you will and won't allow. Do not try to control other people, because you can't, okay? Think about boundaries as guardrails that you set for yourself. And I'm going to give you a quick example. We all have that relative that loves to hear them talk about politics, right? Like, it's super annoying. They're constantly going on and on about politics, okay? And you want this relative of yours to stop talking about politics around you, okay? What if I told you that expressing a boundary with a relative, telling them to stop talking about politics around you, will probably only increase the likelihood that they're going to? And so the better way to think about boundaries is not, what do I need to say to Uncle Joe so that Uncle Joe does not talk about politics around me? That's not how you do this. You don't go, Uncle Joe, you're crossing a line with me. You're crossing a boundary. I need you to stop talking about politics. Let's just role play that for a minute. How do you think that's going to work? That ain't going to work very well, is it? No, because then Uncle Joe's going to flare up, and then you're going to flare up. And now, instead of having a boundary that you held, you've got a gigantic mess that's been made. Instead, you got to think about that boundary with you, okay? What are you going to do? And there are 2 examples of this. You could decide that if that relative starts sounding off about politics, that is a boundary for you, and you will remove yourself from the room. That's an example of how you can set a boundary. Another example is you could say something to Uncle Joe, and you could say, hey, Uncle Joe, I love you, and I'd love to have you over for dinner. But if you plan on talking about politics when we're together, we're not going to have dinner. You have defined what you will tolerate and not. You didn't say, do not talk about politics. You said, I love you. If we're going to have dinner together, I'd love to have you over for dinner, but not if we're talking politics. You've given Uncle Joe the option to talk politics or not. You've just made it clear where you stand, which is, we're not having dinner together if you opt to do that. Do you see how that's about your behavior? You've made it clear what you're going to do, but Uncle Joe now has a choice to either respect the boundary or not. You want to focus on what's in your control, okay? That's what you want to do. If you're going through a divorce, you're waiting for lawyers. And this process of anticipation, this process of having to be patient, the first thing that you need to do is ask yourself, and this is, by the way, stuff that I talk about in the High Five Habit book. This is about how to cultivate a high five attitude when things are out of your control, how to cultivate a high five attitude when you are waiting and are feeling this anticipation, how to cultivate a high five attitude when you might be disappointed. I mean, you're not going to have everything be a win in life. And so rule number 1, You want to put 150% effort in on something that you care about, okay? So if you are sitting here and you're waiting to hear back on something, or you're waiting to do something, you want to ask yourself, have I put 150% in? One of the reasons why I just fired off literally a 3-page detailed email to this landlord, basically saying these girls need a win. They all have jobs after working internships their senior year. They are respectful. They're not looking at your house like a frat house like so many other people will. They need individual rooms in case they have to work remote. Like I went boom, 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 boom. They're looking for a home. Why did I do that? Because I think it's really important when you are trying to make something happen in your life, really important when you're going for something, that you can personally say to yourself, I have done 150%. I have gone all in, okay? And so I feel like, yeah, we went all in. We got our application in. We got the check submitted. We got the love letter submitted. And now what I do when I'm waiting is I literally say, I've put in 150%. I can give myself that high five. I can look the woman in the mirror and I can say, I know I did everything that I could. What will eat you alive, everybody, is if you're waiting and you know that you didn't put 150% in. It will eat you alive to be waiting to hear back on a job or on some test result or on an application to a program or a school, and to know that you didn't put in 150%, that's what's going to cause the disappointment.
Who can relate to this? You feel like you're not worthy of the things that you're accomplishing, or that somehow this is luck, or somebody's like giving you a break, but you didn't earn it. God, every one of you, that blows. Really. So what you're dealing with when you have imposter syndrome is you're dealing with a lack of self-worth. You literally kind of see all the things working out, but you've got this like annoying voice in your head that's saying, you don't deserve this. This is luck. How many of you have that story? This is luck. This is going to run out. This isn't due to me. Yeah, we got to literally destroy that voice. That is from your past. And part of the reason why you have that voice, by the way, is because of racism. It's because of discrimination. It's because of childhood trauma. It's because of various experiences that you've had, where either your experiences growing up or society at large has made you feel either overtly or in a really like gross and sort of sly way like you don't belong. And so it is critical for you to start to punch that voice literally out of your head. And I'm going to give you some steps to do it, okay? The second thing that's really important is that in addition to stopping down that voice, because it's not your voice, that is somebody else's voice that your brain listened to and then started repeating. And the thing about your brain is that your brain is this really cool computer that learns patterns. And what I want you to understand is that patterns repeat unless you break and replace them. And if you have a pattern of thinking, like what Heidi has, that says, you're not worthy, you don't deserve this, luck is gonna run out, at some point, the you know what's gonna hit the fan again, brace, don't count on anything, like you didn't earn this. If you got that pattern running in your head, that is a broken pattern. You're not broken. That pattern of thinking is broken. And so the line in the sand that I want to draw starting today is you're not allowed to listen to that garbage anymore. We are going to go on a mission together to notice whenever it comes up, oh, interesting, there it is. There's that pattern. It's spinning, just like a load of laundry, right up there. And I'm going to teach you, once you recognize that pattern, you're going to use this thing that I created called the 5-second rule. You're going to count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, because that shuts that down. And counting backwards, let's all do it together. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now notice when you counted, did you feel a little pressure right here? Yeah, that was me hypnotizing you. No, I'm just kidding. What you were feeling is by counting backwards, it's a little brain hack that interrupts all the garbage that's here in the interior part of your brain. This is where imposter syndrome lives, everybody. This is where anxiety is. This is where self-doubt is. This is where self-criticism is. This is where it's all stored. When you notice, oh, there's that voice again, and you count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you shut it down, and then you awaken this part of your brain. This is the part of the brain that you used when you were taking the SATs. This is the part of the brain that you used when you applied for that job, when you speak up in that meeting, when you tell somebody, no, you cannot borrow my dress tonight. No. When you have boundaries, right? This is the part of the brain that gives you immediate control over what you think and do next. And so that's a really important thing.
One of the things that has happened, certainly in the pandemic, but it always happens when there's any kind of reckoning in your life, is that when you have something suddenly happen and your life is fundamentally changed, whether it's a death, or somebody says, I don't love you anymore, or you're fired, or you find yourself with a scary health diagnosis, there is a line in the sand. There is a life before that happened, and then a life after that moment happened. And that line in the sand, that reckoning that happens, and it happens for all of us, whether it's happening for you right now, or it has happened in the past, I'm telling you, there is a gift inside of this, even the darkest moments, because every single sudden change in your life that makes you feel like you've lost control and you no longer know where you're going, it's like hitting the giant pause button. And if you lean into the moment, there is a chance for tremendous wisdom and growth. There are things that you can do right now in order to take control of where you're going, of what you're thinking about. And you can start to take this moment of change and you can use it to be able to take and make an intentional pivot in the direction that is meant for you next. And one of the things I want to say about this moment is, look, if you're losing loved ones, you are terrified, this has made you lose your job, you feel like you're in that moment where everything, you're falling off a cliff, you're trying to pack a parachute, you're grieving. And so you got to give yourself space to grieve the losses that you're feeling. And when you get a little bit of distance from the grieving and the waves of grief and fear that you're feeling start to space out. They don't ever leave you, but over time, those waves of, holy cow, and I don't want this, and I can't handle this, and why is this happening to me? Time will start to lessen those waves. You will gather your feet underneath you again, and you will absolutely be stronger and be a better version of yourself based on this incredible challenge that you're facing. And I can say that even though you may be facing in a tough time, because if you think about your life, you've faced extraordinary challenges and there hasn't been a single one that hasn't made you a better and stronger version of yourself. And this moment will be no different. So I want you to understand that when you get out of the cycle of grief, this is an enormous reckoning, an enormous opportunity for you to hit the pause button and for you to start to ask yourself the question, what do I want my life to look like? Because I think too many of us are sitting here going, I can't wait for my life to get back to normal. I can't wait for this to end. I can't wait to things to go back to normal. And in any moment of reckoning, what happens is there's actually parts of your old life that you don't want to go back to. And there is a tremendous amount that you're learning in this moment that you need to pause and take in and say, okay, based on what I've just learned, based on my old life, when I look ahead to my new life, what is it that I want my new life to look like? This next chapter, I can turn to a blank page, I can take all this wisdom, all this resilience, all this strength, and I can write something new. That's what I want you to know. You don't need to know where the world or where everything is headed. You just need to know where you're going to head next.
Number one, the secret to an optimistic mindset. You got to be maniacal about your intake. Negativity in here means negativity in your body gets stored here and negativity comes out here. It becomes this loop of negativity. And so in order to build a positive mindset, I want you to be maniacal about positive input. That means really watch your news intake. Do not be watching it every day. Get the facts, get what you need to know from a trusted, measured, calm, factual source, and then turn that off, okay? That's number one. Number two, edit your social media. Anything on your social media feeds should be helping you be more resilient, more optimistic, more positive. Anything that you're following that triggers you, that is negative, that rubs you the wrong way. You know, one of the things that I've noticed, I have some favorite celebrities that I have followed for a while because I think they're funny, or I love just kind of their sense of humor. But there are so many people that I have muted right now because I think that what they're doing online is so freaking out of whack. Seeing people give us advice about quarantining from the back of their estates and mansions, telling us to donate when they're not saying they're donating, seeing this kind of tone deaf celebrity thing going on. I'm normally not a negative person about that, but I have muted so many accounts because it's not doing anything for me. And you got to be selfish right now. You have got to edit your social media feeds so that your social media feeds are helping you build an optimistic and positive mindset. And so every day, the second I see something, I mute, unfollow, because negativity in means negativity gets stored here, means negativity goes out there from you. You want to put positivity, optimism, tools, strategies, things that keep you laughing, things that keep you giving you things that you can use right now. The second you start getting overloaded with Corona stuff, mute that stuff, edit your social media based on what you need. That's number one, maniacal about your intake. For years, hesitation kept me trapped in my head. Hesitation made me doubt myself. Hesitation kept me from taking the actions and taking the small risks that change your life. And you have a habit of hesitating. Hesitating is this little habit that we all have. And, you know, I obviously invented the 5-second rule, which is a tool that you can use to push through the hesitation that holds you back and to break that habit of hesitating and to replace it with an action of moving forward. But there's an area in your life where you are hesitating. You know what you want, or you at least know you don't want what you currently have. And you think a lot about what you need to do or what you could do or what you wish would happen. And all that thinking that you're doing, that is the problem. You're not going to change your life. You're not going to get what you want if all you do is think about it. And I want to challenge you. I think that there is some change you want to make, something that you want to do, and you're sitting there questioning it, whether it's going back to school or launching that business or moving to a different place or breaking up with somebody or changing up your exercise program. There's something that you want to do. And I want you to put in the comments, what's that thing that you really want to have a breakthrough in or you want to change, but all you do is think about it and think about it and think about it. Maybe it's your job. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your relationship. Well, I know one thing that a lot of you are hesitating on right now is jumping into this new program that I have called Launch. I'm going to talk about it in a minute. But for those of you that are not considering Launch, that's cool. I want you to get something out of our conversation right now. But the habit of hesitating, of questioning, I think it kills more happiness, more possibility, more dreams than fear, failure, and every excuse that you have. Because it's so subtle. You see, what happens to you is that throughout your day, you are going through your day, and as you bump into people or you have experiences or you see things on social media or you're reading a book, you have this impulse or this inspiration, this moment where you're like, oh gosh, I'd love to launch a business like that, or oh, I'd love to launch a podcast, or maybe I should write a book someday, or I should really get serious about that thing that I want to do. And then, instead of taking a step forward, you stop and think about it. So I see Stephen wants to stop smoking. I see that, a lot of you want to launch a business or change your job, or learn how to invest in real estate full time. That there's a lot that you're thinking about, but this moment of hesitation, what happens when you stop and think is you literally get trapped in your head. And the more that you think about this thing, whether it's real estate investing or launching a business or changing your health or quitting smoking or whatever it may be, maybe it's just mindset. Maybe you just wish you weren't so negative all the time. Maybe you wish you could be happier. That's something I'm working on in this chapter of my life. Learning how to allow myself to be happier. Learning how to be okay with everything that's happening and everything that's not. I mean, that would be a huge change for somebody like me who is so type A and so hard charging and so driven, to learn how to just be happy and okay no matter what's happening, that would be enough. That's something I'm working on. But thinking about it, that's not going to help. So as you write down an area of your life where you're hesitating, I want to tell you the simple truth. The only thing that is going to change that relationship, that job, your financial situation, your attitude, your mental health, your friendships, your relationship with your family, the only thing that's going to change that is action. You got to learn how to launch through the excuses, the fear, all of that crap that's holding you back. What is it that you want to create or change in your life? Okay? I want you to write something down. It could be something tiny, that there's like a specific thing that you want to change, a specific habit, or it could be something really big. And it's important that we start there because I want you to have the thing that you want in mind as I'm talking, okay? What is it that you want to create in 2022? Wealth, stability. You want to stop procrastinating, right? You want to create independence. You want to feel like you're aligned. You want to get your education. You want to change your exercise and eating habits. You don't want to be a passenger in somebody else's life anymore. You want to be the driver of your own life. That's fantastic. And as I talk and as I teach, I want you to continue to think about this goal that you have, to think about this change that you want to make, okay? And what we're going to talk a lot about today is we're going to talk about this principle that I believe. And the principle is this: profound personal and professional change starts with you. That's right. Profound personal and professional change starts with you. And change starts with you because the most effective change starts from the inside out, okay? And so as you think about a behavior change or a thinking pattern change that you want to make, or some sort of goal or dream, I want you to take everything that I'm about to teach you and have that example in mind, okay? So that everything that I'm talking about isn't just stuff I'm doing in my life, isn't just stuff that you read about when you look at the research in terms of habits and manifesting, but that you actually walk away with takeaway that is specific to what you want to achieve. We all know that we need to love ourselves, right? How do you do that?
I don't know. What is the action that you take?
Yeah. We all know we're supposed to accept ourselves. We all know we're supposed to have self-esteem and self-worth and self-validation and self-confidence. How do you build it? And, the other thing is that we also are looking outside ourselves for confirmation, validation, affirmation of those things. And so how do you relocate the source of your self-confidence, self-esteem, self-worth, self-validation within yourself so that you're in control of it? Big idea, right? So let me tell you the story about how I discovered this, because it was not like how do I have another high five moment, I get fired from my talk show, and I am essentially fired from my dream job. I then start having speech after speech after speech after speech cancel. Then Houghton Mifflin cancels my contract for my next book and asks for me to return money that I've long spent. And
why'd they cancel it? Just
because
because of pandemic related?
They laid off. There are two reasons. First of all, they were laying off 45% of the staff. But more importantly, let me take responsibility. I was a year late on delivering a manuscript. Okay, let's be honest. I f***ed up yet again.
Yeah.
I ghosted my publisher and they fired my ass, as they should.
A long play to ghost your publisher, right?
I'm going to spend your money and then ghost you. But I found myself again in this familiar place, having sort of echoes back to a decade ago of, oh my God, are we in financial freefall again? Is this ride over? Mm-hmm. Kids come home.
You did 100 speeches in a year prior to that.
Yep.
Or prior to the show.
Yep.
And then took a pay cut to do the show.
Yep. And look, I've been saving money. I've been very smart about money now that I've made it. We've paid back all of our debt, something we're both really, really proud of. And at the same time, when the shit hits the fan in your life, your old things will get triggered. And what got triggered for me is I'm about to lose it all again.
Right.
Meanwhile, just like everybody else on the planet, your kids come home and it's both a blessing and a horror show to have your children in a state of distress as the world is in distress. And I just started to feel overwhelmed. And there was this one morning where I walked into the bathroom. And I was standing in my underwear, brushing my teeth in front of the mirror. And I looked up at the mirror and my first thought was, ugh. I noticed that my jowls were starting to look like saddlebags on a pack horse at the Grand Canyon. And I had these crazy lines by my eyes, and my neck was really kind of saggy, and one boob was hanging lower than the other, and my gray hair was coming in, and as soon as I started kind of critiquing my thoughts or my looks and appearance, then my mind, Rich, started going, I didn't get that email back to that person, and I got that presentation I need to do, and my God, did that speech just cancel again? What the f*** am I going to do? And I look down and the dog needs to be walked, and then I think, I got a Zoom call in 9 minutes. I got to get my shit together. And before I knew it, my whole mood was low. I felt overwhelmed. I had taken myself down mentally. I just wanted somebody to walk in and be like, Mel, it's going to be okay. You got this, girl. It's lift your head up. You can handle this. I don't know what came over me, Rich. This is pathetic. But standing there in my underwear in front of my bathroom sink, I raised my hand and high-fived my reflection. And I cracked a smile because it's so corny. I even thought of that guy, Stuart Smiley from the SNL skit. Mm-hmm. So remember that? I'm nice, I'm kind, people like me. Went on with my day. That was it.
Snapped a photo, though.
No, not that one.
Oh, not that one.
Mm-mm.
Not the first time.
And then I kept doing it. I did it probably for a week or two. And here's the weird thing about it. I started when I woke up after doing this high-five your own reflection in the mirror thing. I actually started to feel like I was looking forward to it. And here's why. I've spent a lifetime, just like you, standing in front of the mirror. And what I realize now is that when I'm standing in front of a mirror, I'm either critiquing or picking myself apart, or I'm ignoring myself. And when you start to high-five your own reflection, it starts to build a partnership within you, with yourself. When you walk into the bathroom and you see your reflection and you've been greeting it, it's like seeing another person. It's the strangest thing. You start to realize how often you ignore or destroy yourself when you see yourself or beat yourself up. And here's what's also crazy. You have a lifetime, and this is where the science gets wacky, and I'm going to hit you with so much science because this stuff is so cool. You have a lifetime positive association with high-fiving other people.
Sure.
As a runner, as a racer, you have gotten so many high fives, Rich. What does a high five say to you when somebody gives you one?
You feel seen, you feel appreciated, you feel energized by it, and it's an exchange of energy. It's not the same, and you talk about this in the book, it's not the same as like self-talk because there's a participation involved in it. There's like a communion aspect to it.
Yeah. And, if you think about it, you're so good at celebrating, seeing, and cheering for other people in your life. You plan birthday parties, you reach out to people when you're worried about them, you help out colleagues, you cheer for your favorite sports teams, you high-five people like Rich as they're running races past you, you buy people's merchandise, you do all kinds of stuff for other people, but nobody's taught you how to do it for yourself. In fact, the reason why it feels weird to high-five your own reflection is because you've been taught to do the opposite.
The reason why habits are so important, everybody, is because based on research, this is from a study that was published a couple of years ago, that 40% of your behavior are what we call habits. Habits, that's just another word for patterns, okay? And so I'm going to give you some examples of habits that you might not even think about are a habit, okay? And a pattern or a habit is simply a behavior pattern. We call them a loop, and I'm going to explain why. It's a behavior pattern that is stored in the subconscious part of the brain. You'll also often hear people talk about the basal ganglia. And the reason why you have habits is because your brain loves shortcuts. See, everything that your brain is doing and your nervous system is doing, we've talked a lot about this in other trainings, but everything that your brain and your nervous system is doing, it requires fuel. Just like your car requires fuel for you to be able to go from where you are right now to the grocery store, that's how it runs. Your brain requires fuel. And your brain has figured out ways to maximize the fuel and to be more efficient. And the way that your brain is more efficient is it learns habits and patterns. And when you have a habit or a pattern that you have memorized because you've repeated it so many times, it takes less fuel for your brain to reflexively do that pattern than doing something new. And I'll give you an example. This is something you can test out later today or tomorrow. I want you to think about like a place that you often bike or drive to. Maybe it's a grocery store, maybe it's work, maybe it's school, maybe it's a friend's house. Tomorrow, I want you to consciously drive an entirely new and different and longer way. And you will notice something. You will notice that your brain fights you. You will notice that your brain is annoyed. And you will notice that it takes more effort for you to think about where you're headed. Because the way that you commute to work or school or the grocery store, you have repeated that so many times. It is now a pattern or a habit loop stored in your brain. That's why often you get to places you always drive and you're like, oh my God, who drove the car? Because you don't remember driving the car because your brain was in the background making decisions that have already been automated. So the reason why that happens, just in summary, is because if you had to use your prefrontal cortex and focus on every aspect and every decision from how you pick up the toothbrush to how you hold a pencil to all that stuff, you literally would need to take a nap by 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You wouldn't be able to process that much new information. And so it's a way for your brain to take a break. It learns patterns, automates behaviors. So let me give you some examples of some habits you might not think about. Picture yourself sitting at the wheel of a car and you put the car in reverse. Which shoulder do you look over as you're backing up?
It's always the same one, isn't it? And depending upon where you live in the world, it's one side or the other. It's always the same. You don't even think about it, do you? That right there is a habit. That is a reflexive action and pattern that you do without even thinking. Now think about your evening routine. Do you lock the door every night at home? Do you have a pattern or habit of things that you just go through in your house, reflect? You don't even think about it, right? You're not like, oh, it's time to lock the door. Where is the door? I can't remember how to do that. I better force it. No, you just get up, you walk to it, click the lock, and it's just a pattern that you do that is triggered by the end of the night. Here's the second thing I want you to know about patterns. Patterns repeat. Patterns repeat. If you don't interrupt a pattern and replace it with something else, the pattern will repeat forever. So learning new behaviors and learning new habits is a lot more about spotting the things that you don't want to do anymore and interrupting them, and then replacing those old patterns with new patterns. And I believe that when you start to feel broken or stuck in your life, you're not broken. You have a pattern from your past that makes you feel broken based on where you want to go now. And I also believe that when you feel stuck in life, you're not actually stuck. You're just stuck repeating these old patterns. And until you catch them and you interrupt them, which is where the 5-second rule comes in, there's nothing more powerful to help you interrupt an old pattern than counting backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, to interrupt the loop. But then you have to replace it with something else. Because if you don't replace the pattern, what's rule number 1 about patterns? Patterns repeat. So you can't just break a habit. Technically, you don't break a habit. Technically, you replace it with something else. There will never be another you. There never has been another you. There will never be another you that will ever walk this earth. You are the one and only, which means you have something extraordinarily unique to give to the world. And feeling celebrated and feeling seen and feeling heard, it is so tied into your existence because of how unique you are. That's why you long to be recognized as an individual. That's why you long to be celebrated as an individual. This need, it's so important and foundational to you and the fact that your birth and existence is a miracle, that it's as important to your well-being to be seen and heard and appreciated as food and water. The difference between a good day and a bad day, you know what it comes down to typically is just being acknowledged by somebody. And you know who's the best person to acknowledge and validate you? You are. And that brings me back to that moment every single morning when you come face to face with yourself in the mirror. High-fiving yourself is so much more than a physical act. It's foundational. It's a transfer of energy. It symbolizes an alliance and a belief in yourself and your ability. You aren't congratulating yourself, you're celebrating yourself as you are. And you just heard the math. Your existence is what makes you worthy of a high five. Your presence, your hopes, your dreams, your capacity to love, your ability to heal, to change, to grow, your heart, your soul. That's what makes you worthy of being seen and heard and appreciated. Not once in a while, but every single day. That's what you deserve. That's what you need. And the miracle of your existence is why you need it. See, when you are able to see yourself, when you are able to celebrate yourself, when you are able to treat yourself in a way that you have been wishing your parents would have, or wishing your friends or your spouse or your boss would, when you take control, this is what you communicate. It's incredible.
You're basically, when you're able to hear yourself and see yourself and support yourself, and I believe that simply adding a high five in the mirror to yourself as part of your morning routine every single day, you start the day by fulfilling those foundational needs that the miracle of your birth demands of you. Adopt a simple habit. Every single morning, I do a very simple thing. I write down 5 things that I want. That's it. When I start my day, after I get up when the alarm rings, I make my bed, I pull on my exercise clothes, I set an intention, I high five myself in the mirror, I then go out into the kitchen, I crack open my high five journal, and then inside the journal there are prompts that walk me through the steps of visualizing. And the first prompt is dream with the lid off. Set your spirit free. Write down 5 things every morning that you want. And this is important because when you get what you want out of your head and you physically put them on a piece of paper, research shows that you're 42% more likely to achieve those goals simply by writing them down. That's pretty cool. Secondly, your mind is paying attention. And when you take deliberate action and you write down what you want, you are signaling to your brain that you deserve to have these things. You are signaling to your brain that you do want those things. You're not just going to think about them. These are things that matter to you. And that helps train your mind to allow you to let the desires flow through you. Because right now, you're not manifesting properly because you're not even allowing yourself to dream with the lid off. So that's step number 1. You're going to start writing down 5 things that you want every single morning as a way to train your mind to let you dream freely. One of the things that I have to do is I have to stop holding on to misery. I've got to stop holding on to my own habit of hesitating and overthinking and feeling scared and gripping. And I'm working on it. So I want to know, what are you getting out of this? And I see, I love this. I see so many of you going, oh my God, happiness is so unfamiliar. Happiness is so unfamiliar. Trauma that you haven't released. I relate to this. Holy cow. I'm so glad that you do. I remember a couple months ago, I was doing a bunch of research for a project that we're doing for Audible about happiness. Was one of the episodes that we were working on. And it was kind of striking to me that the research around happiness shows that folks that feel happier and are present to more joy in their life have a habit that those of us that sort of grip tightly and feel a little wound up and stressed and have a hard time relaxing don't have. And that habit that happy people have is that they make time to do things that make them feel happy. And when I started digging into that research, it was a little confronting because I thought, holy shit, I don't even allow myself. I'm so gripped to feeling stressed out and intense and bracing for what's next that I haven't even made it a priority to allow myself. And so becoming a happier person, again, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier in this broadcast. The first step is literally letting go. Stop gripping. Let go of what's no longer serving you, because holding on to it hurts a hell of a lot more than letting go of it. And so wherever in your life you are not happy, or you are just bracing or stressed, or stuff isn't working, I guarantee you, you're gripping onto something, a relationship, a job, a habit, a routine, a place that you live, a mindset. You're gripping onto something that no longer serves you. And gripping to it is going to cause you so much more pain and misery than letting go. It's really that simple. Every single ending in your life has a brand new beginning contained into it. That's it. Every single ending that you are avoiding in your life, inside that ending, there is a new beginning. I am right in the thick of this, which is why I'm talking about it. I love myself because I feel comfortable in my own skin. I love myself, everybody, because I don't label myself as a bad or selfish or broken or whatever person. I just encourage myself. I give myself compassion, and I work hard every day to maintain that kind of relationship with myself. I have truly stopped victimizing myself. And I have empowered myself by encouraging and being compassionate with myself. And you're meant to feel this way about yourself too. This is how you're meant to feel. You're meant to feel comfortable in your own skin. You're meant to feel proud of yourself. You're meant to feel celebrated and encouraged by yourself. And look, I still don't live on the right street. I still don't belong to that country club. I can't go back and redo my college and my law school years. But here's what I can tell you. You can break the habit of beating yourself up over the past. You can break the habit of constantly victimizing and bashing yourself. You can break the habit of labeling yourself with these horrible labels and indicting yourself by saying, you are this way. No, the behavior that you engaged in may have sucked back then, but you don't suck. You're just a human being and you're figuring things out. And now that you know what you need to do better, you can do better. The reason why visualization and picturing yourself succeeding and allowing yourself to feel the happiness and the pride that comes with picturing a positive future. The reason why that's as important is, let's say Shelly does that every single day this week. Every day she wakes up, she walks for 5 minutes, and as she's walking on that treadmill, she's visualizing herself finishing a 10K in 6 months and how proud she is. Every time she does that, she is changing what's going on up here. This isn't something I made up. This is true. And it's not only true based on science, but let's think about this from a common sense perspective. If Shelly wakes up, or if you wake up every single morning, and instead of thinking about the worst case, instead of looking at your body in the mirror and going, I'm so fat, I'm so out of shape, I'll never run a 10K, this is never going to happen. Why didn't I exercise last year? I hate my flabby stomach. I hate my big thighs. I hate how out of shape. I'm embarrassed to go. If that's what you're thinking, then that is what you're allowing your brain to continue to filter the world through. If you start teaching yourself the skill of visualizing a positive outcome and feeling the pride that comes with achieving that positive goal, what happens for you right now is you start to think like the kind of person that does a 10K. If after an entire week, what Shelly does is she looks in the mirror and she goes, I'm getting stronger every day. I'm really proud of myself. Even though I'm feeling flabby, I'm not saying you're flabby, Shelly, but even though I'm feeling flabby, I'm doing the work. I can do this. What happens a week from now is when she sees a registration for a 10K, the old mind that wasn't programmed correctly would go, oh, you're fat, you're out of shape, you're not prepared for that, don't sign up. But the new mind, because she's been visualizing every single day, the new mind just 7 to 10 days later is going to go, oh, wait a minute, I'm in shape, I'm proud, I'm doing this. Why don't you sign up? It's going to filter the world in a very different way because you're training it to. This is the heart of doing a mindset reset. And this is why visualization works and why it's an important step and why I'm so glad you're doing it. If you know the moment that you started to think, wow, I got to change myself to fit in. I can't be gay. I can't have kinky hair. I don't like the color of my skin because I feel like there's something wrong with me. Society gave you that message. Your parents did. Maybe a bully said something to you. I see somebody writing the way that I walk. I see somebody talking about the texture of their hair. I see somebody saying, I always felt like there was something wrong with me. Well, let me tell you something, everybody. I never fit in with any particular groups of friends. Let me tell you something. Every one of you is now going, I remember that feeling because I was the only immigrant in my class. I was the only Muslim in my class. I didn't look like the other people. I didn't feel like the other people. My father was so critical, right? When you start to get this message from society or other people or just this perception that you have that something's wrong with you, this is where your obsession with changing yourself to fit in begins. This is where your obsession with people pleasing, this is where this sense that you don't belong anywhere that you go began. And it can become a habit. And so we're going to unpack this because what I want you to understand is that you literally came into this world perfect, whole, and complete. You are wired to love yourself. You're wired for love. That's why you miss it. You're wired for self-acceptance. And the world taught you that there's something about you that needs to be changed in order to be liked or loved. And it's simply not true. When you can come back home to yourself and you can accept and love yourself first, exactly where you are, exactly where you're not, then you'll know the secret to going out in the world and not feeling like you never really belong anywhere, or you constantly need to tweak yourself or how you show up in order to be accepted by people. When you accept yourself as you are, when you love yourself as you are, other people liking or loving you is just a bonus, but it doesn't change how you feel about yourself.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome. For 10 more amazing rules from Marie Forleo, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
You've got to take responsibility for the energy that you allow in your life. I want you to fend off negativity as much as humanly possible. You know, we know so much more about the brain than we did just 20 years ago.